Sweet melodies. We do it different.
Is it possible to run a business without compromising? Is it possible to get a contract without paying bribe? What do you do when your employer is engaged in fraudulent activities against your conscience? It's time to switch on our financial integrity lights to combat the darkness of bribery and corruption in our workplaces. Join George Babafemi on Club 633 here on Sweet Melodies 94.3 FM as we discuss answers to these questions and more. Time is 3 p.m. every Thursday. Club 633, getting the facts straight.
I discovered that price of greatness is either paid through self-discipline or through being disciplined by another. For instance, a child may not have developed enough muscle for self-discipline, but he has to lie under the yoke of discipline by those ahead of him. The difference here is that as long as you can't subject yourself to your own discipline and someone has to force you to do it, it means you are still a child. Whether at age 10 or at age 80. This is exactly what the Bible says in the book of Galatians chapter 4 verse 1, and I quote. It says, "What am I saying is that as long as an heir is underage, he is no different from a slave, although he owns the whole estate. The heir is subject to guardians and trustees until the time set by his father. So also when we were underage, we were in slavery under the elemental spiritual forces of the world." Good afternoon and welcome to this platform. My name is George Babafemi, and I've been your regular host on this program called Club 633. During the last week episode, we had my own honorable elder, MCD Torkornoo, a seasoned banker and an astute entrepreneur, lovers of youth, progress in life, and above all, lover of God. By popular demand by some Club 633 members, we are privileged to have him back here with us again, out of his tight schedule. And I can tell you he's here today because he is very self-disciplined. He's here to throw more light, not just by virtue of theory or knowledge, but by experiences. Sir, you are welcome to this platform and we are glad to have you back.
Thank you, my pastor. I'm privileged to be here. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Just taking a cue from my introduction, lack of self-discipline is a major root cause for failure generally in life. And I have also thought it's a major root cause of financial corruption. So can you elaborate more on the subject of self-discipline before we narrow it down to how it can be a catalyst for taming financial corruption?
Thank you, my pastor. I tell myself that anybody who lacks self-discipline, that person is doomed to become a mediocre. When you want to become a great person, no matter what level you are, whether in the public eyesight or in the private eyesight, in the corporate world, in the business world, you need the greatest element that you need to succeed is self-discipline. Now, self-discipline in some schools of thought have described it as the ability to do what you have to do when you have to do it, whether it is convenient for you or not. If you apply these principles, then you are on the highway to greatness.
I heard something there that say whether it's convenient or not, and I think if I should add to what you said, I think that is the main crux of self-discipline. In most cases, it is not always convenient. Somebody said, for instance, and I quote, Napoleon Hill, after interviewing 500 of the richest people in America, concluded that self-discipline was the sole denominator that ran across all of them. And somebody said, if you dodge the weight of discipline, you can't dodge the weight of regret. It is like self-discipline is like having dinner before dessert. Now, how does this, we're looking at financial people who indulge themselves in financial corruption. What role does self-discipline play in making sure they go into it or they don't go into it, especially when it is doing it, even though it is not convenient?
You know, every description by great men and even the small discoveries some of us we have made, self-discipline is at the apex of everything. Self-discipline. Because you see, self-discipline is even better than character. Even though character is the total sum of a whole human being. You know, you can describe somebody to have a good character. But I tell you honestly, if you put character, integrity, and self-discipline together, self-discipline is like the mother that has given birth to character and integrity. So, for instance, if you are a leader in whatever respect, whether in the church, in the corporate world, or even when you are a political leader, and you don't have self-discipline, you are doomed. You will never be great. Because from my own discovery, I've realized that it is the key. Self-discipline is the key to becoming great. In fact, when you are self-disciplined, it's like paying the price of greatness in life. You know something? Because of what I've just said, paying the price, if you don't, everybody pays the price. It depends on the quantum of price you are paying. I have read somewhere it's even said that if you don't pay the price of self-discipline, you are definitely going to pay, because nobody escapes the price of self-discipline. And if you don't pay it early, you will pay it with interest.
I'm sorry, I'm sure everybody too is either smiling or laughing out
that's the statement of fact. Because you see, there is a graduation from when you pay it. Once you don't pay it at your early formative years and you grow up, in fact, you'll be paying a greater price. So the difference between paying early and not paying is the interest that you are adding to it.
So I'm going to go off my regular questions. I want to ask for typical example of self-discipline that is paid for now, or if you dodge it now, you pay it later. A very simple life example, whether it relates to financial corruption we're dealing with or not. Something people can even relate with, because sometimes we think we understand some statement, self-discipline, discipline, but maybe some true life examples can throw more light.
Let me give you an example, maybe two examples. Anybody who steals pennies and he thinks or she thinks is not going to be caught, the years will pass by when you now graduate into a fraudulent person. And when you are caught, then you are paying with the whole of your life. Now, let me tell you one of the things that I did very early. My father was a soldier and also a pastor. And our early formative years, he disciplined us in such a way that we have to wake up very early in the morning, do our house fellowship for about an hour. Let me tell you, that ingredients instituted in me by my father grew through over the years. And even when I was a managing director of a bank, we had a very vibrant fellowship. And guess what? The fellowship starts at 7 in the morning. And being the managing director, I don't, raise up my shoulders. I was the leader of the fellowship also. And every time I will be in office before 7. That's one of the. If I didn't discipline myself, there was no way my staff, who were Christians, would be able to come to the fellowship. And I tell you, that fellowship sustained the institution that I was in. I tell you honestly, and I bear witness to it.
I mean, I can testify to that about your timing. Last week I met you here even before I came. Today I met you here even before I came. Even though you have very, very important meetings somewhere, which you have asked them to push a little forward just because of self-discipline. I didn't know you came from the route of a soldier. Probably some of us need to go through that route. Now, sir, because today we tagged the how can we tame financial corruption with self-discipline and with character building. Character is who we are morally, especially when no one is watching. What is the relationship between self-discipline and character building?
All right, let me put it this way. Like I said from the beginning, I said self-discipline is the mother of character and integrity, if I want to take these three things. Now, you see, character is morality, your self-value, okay? Now, self-discipline is whether your ability to decide to do something, even if it is not convenient for you. You see, character only speaks of the person, but with self-discipline, it goes beyond even your character. You have built a certain value system for yourself, but here you are concerned with two issues. Now, will I do this or will I not do this? It is only a disciplined person that can take an option over another option, even though two of them are rewarding and they are similar.
While thinking about this program even before today, my mind went back to the Bible, which is our own manual for life. All our discussion is based on this. I realized that Bible is for the self-discipline.
Yes.
Because everything that is written there, instructions, we are left to decide whether we want to do them or not. Take tithe, for instance. What we would think is the tax system of the kingdom. The tax system of the world, we are not given the privilege to collect the money and come and give the government first, because the government seems not to trust anybody to bring the money back.
Because they don't trust themselves.
Yes.
How will they trust somebody else? So
self-discipline is lost.
It's lost, completely lost.
Now, God, He owns everything. He said, I owe you. I buy you up by my blood. So it means the money we have in our hand is His own.
Yes.
He could have taken the 10% because He owns it.
Yes.
And take it before we get the money. He said, take all the 100 and give me 10%. Which means He expects you to be self-disciplined because it is difficult to, especially when you have needs, all manner of needs. And here you are supposed to pay 10% to God. Why couldn't He have taken it before? So that example shows me that everything about the instruction of God is built on those who can or who are self-disciplined. If that be the case, I, as a person, I'm faced with these challenges. Maybe I call it life challenge. I need to pay school fees that is so, if I don't pay it now, I may lose a year, or a health case, or a rent case. I can't get the money, and here is an opportunity that presents itself to me. I'm talking about believer now.
Yes.
To maybe get the money in some ways, and then either convince myself I'll pay back or not. What should I do? I'm talking about life situation. What should I do, sir? And I'm faced with God's, he said I should trust Him, and I've trusted Him to that point. This money is not coming, but I saw one that looked like it, but it's not. What do I do? Where does character play in here? Where does self-discipline play in here?
I care to tell people that there are two things in the world: choice and a decision. Every believer has chosen Christ. That's a good one. Now, but the decision to apply the principles of the kingdom sometimes is tempting. Now, let me tell you about tithing. Whether you are a believer or you're not a believer, you will pay the tithe. There is a way that God will take this tithe from you. Have you seen multimillionaires who are trading in the stock exchange and they have lost all their livelihood before? Oh, my pastor, that's one way of paying the tithe for somebody who doesn't believe. It's a very sad thing that even believers don't believe in tithing. Tithing is one of the things, even when I was in religion, we were brought up in religion. We were not born again. We were taught right from childhood. So it's not a big deal. I personally understand the principles. Now, anyone who takes away God's tithe, do you know how they call them? They are called God robbers. And you cannot rob God and go scot-free, one way or the other. And it is even dangerous for the believer that you are confronted with a challenge, then you go and take God's money. My friend, you better go hungry. You better let your child stay in the house than to take God's money to go and pay for school fees of your child. If you believe God, if you trust God as your all in all, you will never do that. So you don't have a choice. In terms of paying tithe, you must be, you see, that's where self-discipline comes in. You have to look at it as your first principles. Paying your tithe is like first principles. If you are faced with a challenge and you dare, and I use the word dare, you will pay, and you will pay with interest, just like God said.
This is very interesting. Sir, I want to know, I know you will have life examples where you are at a very dear, you need something very dearly as a believer, maybe something related to finance. And there is also another opportunity to do it wrongly. It will have presented itself to you, either as a regular staff in the bank or as when you move up the ladder to the topmost spot in the bank. How did you handle such situation with your self-discipline trait, and how did you come out of it? Life example may help somebody out there to just come out of it.
Well, as me, everywhere I went, I carried God along with me. I am immersed myself in God. So God was guiding me wherever I was. I had opportunities. Let me tell you, I had opportunities. Very tempting opportunities. But you know something? I always look at God first. There were opportunities I would have made money. But the question is, when I make the money, what next? Will I be able to pay my tithe on fraudulent money that I have made? Will I be able to stand in the presence of God, lifting out dirty hands, which I will be calling holy hands? I had a choice. And to me, one of the things, I say it's like Esther. If I perish, I perish. I had God the principles. I told you I had very tempting, juicy opportunities. And one of the nicknames that my customers used to call me, and they tell my guys when I was in the bank, is this managing director doesn't know business. And I'm sure you would understand what they mean.
I do, sir. You see, I wish we can go on and on and on in this particular area. Now, you said something about, if I perish, I perish. If I perish, I perish. How many believers out there has this principle of if I perish, I perish. Because I even know there are believers who do this thing who still go to pay tithe. Can we say, where are they missing it? Because first, you are even throwing this money out. Is it that you don't know that it's not going to be accepted? I'm just diverting. I'm diverting to one area you said. Yeah. Because there are believers doing this and they pay tithe. Well, church will collect it because they don't see the heart of man. Where is the line of demarcation? What went wrong? Why won't they know that this is stolen money and that God will see it? I'm talking to believers. I'm not talking about those who are not believers.
The truth of the matter is that you can't live two lives. Your life must be one. If you are a believer, you are a believer. There is no way. I mean, you can't be deceiving God and you think you are deceiving the church. You are rather deceiving yourself because, I mean, as we are sitting here right now, I don't know what goes on in your mind and I don't know what goes in your heart. I can only talk about myself. See, a believer must be a believer, even to the point of death. That is because, you see, we are looking at things over here and the things are transitory. There is a greater joy one day, we believers we know. We have not seen it, but we believe that there is a greater opportunity for us in the hereafter. Now, if you are a multimillionaire, a believer, God has blessed you and you have a lot of money. And so what? What does it mean? It doesn't change your physique. It doesn't change your perception. I mean, your physical being is the same. It doesn't. But it is only your heart, what you believe, that one day is going to take you in the hereafter. So at me, I want to enjoin believers to be the same person that you are in the church, that you are also outside. That is the only way you can convince yourself that you are a true believer. There is no way you can be two, playing the game in the church and playing the game outside. No, you are not.
Thank you, sir. I have this bugging question, and I'm going to put it in a statement form. Now, it is this. It is easier sometimes for those who want to do things right to be among the like-minded. I want to do it right, and I find myself under a MD or a CEO who also want to do right. It's easy for me to flow. Now, even among so-called believers, it has become so difficult for the faint-hearted believer to stand their ground. I use the word faint-hearted because maybe he's just coming in, he knew he has to do it right. He's looking for an environment that can help him to grow. But he found himself among believers. There's a lady friend who was reading a Bible at the place of work, her free time. And another believer came and saw her reading the Bible. And the believer, a man, asked her, are you going to marry a pastor? Just by another believer reading the Bible. No, and that means it looks strange. Now, what should people like this do? They find themselves among those, they even call them name, you are fool. Like you say, somebody say you don't know business. What they are trying to say is that you are a fool in quote. Or are you the one who killed Jesus? Or are you going to remain a poor person for life? This is an opportunity God brought your way. And this person doesn't know is left from among believers. What do you advise such Christians to do? It may even be, the believer may even be his boss, whom they go to church together. They both know, they even may be doing fellowship together. But when it comes to this business, this believer is finding it difficult to take his stand. Yet, he wants to. But the environment is not allowing him. The people he found himself are not allowing him or her to take. What advice do you have for such people? There are many people out there like that.
Oh, I agree with you. But the Bible also says that can two work except they be agreed. Now, if you find yourself in such an environment, I tell you, you can't mortgage your faith for what you are taking. I tell you honestly, pray about it and get out of the place. Even if you cannot get, an equivalent GUC position, assuming that you are in a very good position. You see, it is better to save your future than today. That future I'm talking about is our salvation. You can't mortgage it for anything. And sometimes such situations even, call for a challenge, because it might be there for you in order to step out and stepping into your own glory. Because there are some people who are glued up even though they are being pained. Things are not working well. For example, you're working with an unbeliever who is terrorizing your life, and you don't know what to do. I tell you honestly, as a believer, pray about it. Get out of the place. And I know the faithfulness of God will catapult you into a higher position, what you desire. It is challenging, but if you don't put your faith in line, you can't get it right.
Thank you very much, sir. Can I ask this finally, can I conclude this way, that to stay clear out of what will be called financial fraud, you need high-level self-discipline?
No doubt about it. That is, you have nailed it right there. You must be self-disciplined. Can I tell you something, Pastor? As we are discussing right now, somebody may be even a believer or somebody who is not a believer. They say, where do we have self-discipline in the Bible? Let me go to Galatians chapter 5, reading at verse 22 to 23. Now, Paul was counting the fruit of the Spirit. And the 9th one in verse 23, he called it temperance. And that temperance is self-discipline or self-control. They are together. So that is where it is in the Bible, assuming that it's agitating your mind.
I think, like I said earlier on, in closing and in conclusion, the entire Bible, I was thinking about it this afternoon. It's like God has left, this is life and death. Choose. Because self-discipline is about choice. Now, everybody in life wants to be great. Everybody wants to be great, want to be associated with great people. But greatness in life, beneath greatness in life, is choices you make now when you are not great that can lead you to greatness. Like Napoleon Hill said, interview 500 people, what he saw a common denomination. Each of them saw a chance to be great, and they went and paid price for it. The scripture, just in addition to what you said, 1 Timothy chapter 4, verse 7 and 8, it said, I'm just paraphrasing, it said, but godliness is profitable unto all things. It said, exercise thyself rather unto godliness. That exercise there is self-discipline.
You're right.
Because self-discipline is what you force yourself to do. I have this money to buy Coca-Cola. I am not going to buy Coca-Cola. I have this money to buy a car. I'm not going to buy this car. I'm going to invest the money and trek. This is exercise. Because they are not convenient. It is deferring enjoyment till later time, of which many of us are doing now. And so the whole scripture is full of that. Anybody who still think maybe the word self-discipline is not there. Anything that talks about exercise is self-discipline. And the Bible says godliness that you have to exercise to is profitable unto all things. All things. Including life that is now and life to come. Sir, just one more word before we wrap up today. I think it's been a great time.
Well, I will just say that self-discipline is all in one. One of the greatest benefits of self-discipline is that it makes you to make good choices and it makes you to make good decisions. And then I'll just read this in closing. The development of self-discipline is the high road that makes everything possible. With self-discipline, the average can rise as far and as fast as his or her talents and intelligence can take him or her. But without self-discipline, a person with every blessing of background, education, and opportunity will seldom rise above mediocrity.
I know you may not have been able to cram that, but we're going to put it on the podcast and we're going to send it across so that you can listen to this over and over. And maybe I be permitted to say also, since self-discipline has a role to play in you not being a fraudulent person. If you are a fraudulent person, it means you don't have self-discipline. And I consider those who don't have self-discipline as children, whether at age 10 or at age 80. So if you are found in financial fraud, your age title does not matter. You are a child. Take note of that today. And I'm sure you have had a blast today on this program. Somebody said last week we should extend it to 1 hour. No problem. This is what God is permitting us to do now, self-financing. If you want us to do 1 hour, why not? Reach the station and pay for the extra 30 minutes. We'll continue from there in the month of September with more exciting. We have not heard the last from Mr. My elder, MCD Torkornoo. We will bring him here over and over and over and over and again. But for now, I leave you with God's blessing. God bless you.
Amen.
Where would I go? How would I handle things? All that I know.
Across the city and the World Wide Web, this is Sweet Melodies Radio on 94.3.